It's time to get out of pocket. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show in store for you today. Out of pocket. We are live on Boom Broadcasting for your Friday evening. It is 5:30 on the East Coast. It might be 2:30 on the West Coast. We got some of those fellow Westerners joining us, but we appreciate you all watching. You've probably been consuming a lot of March Madness. So if you are trying to avoid scores, trying to avoid spoilers, this is your one and only warning. We're going to be talking about some of the games that happened yesterday. We're going to be covering a little briefly what happened today already. But guys, you can be a part of the conversation, just like Champy saying Arizona a sleeper to win it all. Huh? He's saying Arizona being a sleeper to win all. They play Akron tonight at 7:35, and don't worry, we're going to be off the air before that game so you can catch Arizona and Akron. Some results already coming in today, like Duke winning 93-49 against the 16th seed. They'll be playing Baylor. Former Duke star Jeremy Roach is there. UNC, that was one of the first four teams in, or honestly the last four teams in. They're trying to battle back against Ole Miss right now. Doesn't look good for UNC fans, but if you're a Duke fan like myself, you're enjoying it. Some of the upsets we've had so far includes 9-seed Creighton over 8-seed Louisville, 9-seed Baylor over 8-seed Mississippi State, 11-seed Drake beating Missouri, Arkansas with John Calipari beating Kansas. What a time that is. McNeese State beating Clemson by 2. ACC, not a great year. And probably one of the bigger upsets, Colorado State beating Memphis as a 12 seed, beating a 5 seed, 78-70. But this is the great time. I'm not alone today. And so I want to bring in somebody who dropped their podcast yesterday. If you're a baseball fan, we cover baseball here on Boom Broadcasting as well. He's the host of Dugout Debrief. It is Chris DeLuca in the building. He was a big West Virginia guy, kind of a UNC guy. So there's obviously conflict within you. But March is here, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, the selection there with how that went was what it was. But I can let you know that I did wear my UNC pullover to restaurant/bar last night, and I came back alive. So here I am. I did wear it to trivia last night, and no punches were thrown, but a couple side eyes were given.
Hey, you made it out alive. That's good. I wouldn't want anybody else in your spot sitting in front of that Dodgers World Series banner. That still looks a little outdated. If you guys are a fan of baseball, he talked about the Dodgers playing basically an opening day in Tokyo at the Tokyo Dome in Japan. So if you missed that, you'll want to go see it. He also talked about my favorite player, ironically, Joey Gallo, potentially making the switch to be a pitcher. I said my favorite. I'm not saying he's the best, but he was quite the star in Hickory, North Carolina. So if you are a baseball fan, check out his show, Dugout Debrief. And then you also have a show tomorrow at noon. As a matter of fact, it's 3 times a week. It's 3 from Deep. It's an NBA podcast where he covers, and we'll talk about NBA towards the end of the show, including Steph Curry's injury, but bringing in the host of 3 from Deep, we got Mr. NY himself, Jason Colenso. Jason, you blocking out the haters today?
No, just my future's so bright, so sometimes, got to wear the shades here. How you guys doing today? Glad to be here with you, Chris. Glad to be with you here, Michael. So awesome time to be a sports fan.
It's an awesome time to be a sports fan, and I can't help but think Jason looked just like Morpheus when he was wearing those shades. If anyone's ever seen The Matrix, you know. If you haven't and you live around North Carolina, let me know. I might have something for you. But guys, it is March Madness. It's a great time to be a sports fan, especially basketball. And I feel like even if you're not a basketball fan, even if you haven't followed college basketball all year long, you feel out of bracket because it's awesome. And sleepers, like Champy saying, Arizona is a sleeper to win all. Some of these sleepers just creep up. NC State made it to the Final Four last year after a brutal regular season, barely won the ACC tournament, went on a run, and now a year later they fired their head coach, Kevin Keatts. Now they've went out and got the McNeese coach, who is still coaching, beat Clemson, so an ACC rival, and now they'll play Purdue tomorrow at noon. But I want piggyback off Champy because I appreciate Champy watching on Boom Broadcasting right now, and he's saying that he has Arizona as a sleeper, and I mentioned Arizona plays Akron later this evening at 7:35. But I want to ask you guys, you've probably filled out 1, 2, 3, 6, 20 different brackets. Do you have a sleeper that Champy is bringing up the conversation now? Do you have a sleeper to potentially go deep in this bracket? Jason, I'll begin with you, my friend.
I actually only did one bracket this year. I told myself I'm not going to fill out like 100 brackets. And the only thing I'm disappointed about having the brackets on the app is when your bracket busts, you don't have the pleasure of ripping it up and throwing it away because I can't throw my phone. So Creighton would be my biggest sleeper. I had them going pretty deep into it. I think I had them into the Elite Eight because they got a really good team there. So that was my big sleeper. But that's the greatest part about this time of year is you get those teams that you've never seen during the regular season. They're high seeds, 8, 10, 12, and then all of a sudden, boom, they go on a run. So this is what makes March Madness probably one of the greatest tournaments throughout the year because everybody gets involved. You get people in the office pools that don't even know basketball. They choose colors. They choose the mascot for picking their bracket. So that's what makes this fun. But Creighton was my big sleeper. And we'll see how that goes because they're still alive. I really didn't have anybody else I didn't pick a lot of big upsets this year because I didn't see very many in some of the matchups. So I didn't see any 16, 15, 14 seeds kind of going deep. But, again, this time of year, you just never know.
Well, and that's a good point because 6 of the 8 teams of 1 or 2 seed have advanced. We have yet to see Florida and Norfolk State later on at 6:50. We'll get you out just in time for that. And then Michigan State and Bryant, 2 seed versus a 15 seed. That will be another matchup at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight. So right now, all the 1 and 2 seeds have advanced, but there's usually one that slips by. And Drew Code Sports Talk join us as well. This is probably Cody in the comments saying Jason wears shades indoors like prime time. Drawing the comparison, I cannot wait, by the way. We're knee deep in March Madness time, but we will be covering some of the NFL draft and Shadur Sanders because I got thoughts, and I can't wait to share those. But I also can't wait to hear Chris's sleeper team for March Madness. Do you have a team that you are most excited about making a run that many wouldn't expect?
I mean, I was actually just going through my bracket here, just through a couple of them because I always do the maximum amount just because it's, kind of fun there. And one that I do have actually making the Elite Eight in one of my main brackets here is Oregon. Oregon had some solid wins. They beat Wisconsin. They beat IU. They beat Ohio State during the regular season as well, a team that was really, really close to being there. And that Big Ten was brutal. Another one that I did pick that I'm kind of proud of, I don't have them necessarily making a run, was Colorado State. I did actually pick that win. That wasn't necessarily a crazy upset. But this is kind of a weird year, and I'm sure you guys can agree with this because we're kind of used to these weak 1 seeds. Like, for example, 2 years ago when Fairleigh Dickinson beat Purdue, that wasn't as shocking as when UVA got upset by UMBC because Purdue is a super weak 1 seed. But most of these 1 seeds are pretty darn strong. I mean, that Duke Blue Devils team, Michael's Duke Blue Devils team, beat up on UNC both times. Really strong team. In my opinion, the best team in the country. The only reason that I don't have them winning the national title is because I just think the endurance is going to get to them just playing the games every other day, every 3 days. And especially with Cooper Flagg having that initial ankle injury a little bit ago. And that's going to be a challenge there. But I think a lot of these 1s and 2 seeds are really, really strong. I don't think there's going to be a lot of middle level teams. The only reason I didn't have Arizona going that far is simply because it just feels like every year they bow out. And I like Arizona. I'm not a fan of them, but I like Arizona. I just kind of feel like they bow out kind of early. I mean, we had Princeton not too long ago, and first, second rounds, it's been tough for them. So, but I still think, I mean, who knows? They could change the momentum here, and they could change the vibe for their organization.
They really could. And I want to say I have 3 different brackets right now. When it comes to, this bracket, I did one with a friend. I did one with Chris DeLuca right there. We did some bracketology together. And then I did one for Sniz Fantasy Football, which is a good friend of the show. And it's hard because I'm looking at teams that I like win, and I'm like, okay, I have Oregon in my Elite 8 as a 5 seed. I had UNC actually just getting hot and making a run. It doesn't look like that's going to go over very well. I had them in the Elite 8 losing to Marquette, but that doesn't look well. But Marquette as a 7 seed, I think does get to the Final Four. Gonzaga as an 8 seed, I think could get to the Final Four as well, where they meet up St. John's and Duke. That's the bracket I had for Chris DeLuca right there. But man, there's just some teams like you really want to see what they're made of. And one team that nobody is talking about, they literally went back-to-back championships. UConn. UConn hasn't had as strong of a year, but they're an 8 seed. They'll play Florida if everything works out, and UConn's able to beat Oklahoma. Florida's able to beat 16th seed Norfolk State. But UConn, even as an 8 seed, they have shown that they are capable. Like, they've made 2 deep runs. They still have their head coach. Dan Hurley decided to forego being the LA Lakers head coach. JJ Redick ends up getting that job, and lo and behold, he has LeBron and Luka. Who knows if Dan Hurley would be like, oh, I could get Luka. Maybe I do want to go to the Los Angeles Lakers. I didn't want AD Glass Davis after LeBron James, but he would have gotten Luka Doncic. That's not the case anymore, but I am shocked not a lot of people are thinking UConn could be the surprise sleeper team like they are. When it comes to the upsets that have already happened, I mentioned 2 12 seeds going over. I know McNeese beat Clemson in addition to Colorado State beating Memphis earlier today. Do you have any shocking moments, whether it was one of those upsets or if it was, wow, I expected this team to blow their opponent out and they barely escaped by? Alabama comes to mind against Robert Morris earlier today. Chris, do you have one of those that stick out to you?
That was the big one. That was the big one. Another one was Michigan over UC San Diego. A lot of people did have UC San Diego at least potentially beating them, but I would have to say that those are the main 2 right now. If I'm really talking about surprises right now, like I said, I have the bracket right up right now is 42-28, and sorry for spoilers, people, 42-28 Maryland over Grand Canyon at the half. That's not something that was on my bingo card. I mean, I didn't think this was an extremely strong Maryland team. Grand Canyon is notorious for making runs. I did not expect them to be at this level, but so far, most of them are expected. I mean, Arkansas over Kansas, that was one that didn't shock me. Drake over Missouri, that's an 11 over a 6 isn't going to knock your socks off. And then one that was not surprising, that was just as close as I thought it would be, is this game that just ended here, St. Mary's over Vanderbilt. I actually had Vanderbilt winning that game because SEC battle tested, but St. Mary's just closed, the Gales just closed that game out.
Those are some big updates from Chris. I love the 11-6, not going to knock your socks off, but Jason, was there a game that knocked your socks off?
Not yet. The Arkansas game. So Arkansas beating Kansas, because of course you think Kansas, you think of a deep run, but they haven't really been the Kansas that we know. But still, Arkansas beating them and then going into playing St. John's, because of course everybody wants to see St. John's right now. The Gonzaga didn't have like a really spectacular year this year. No one really talked about them, but them coming up and beating Georgia handily was also kind of a little bit of an eye opener because I didn't expect them. I actually picked Georgia to come out of that game. I didn't think Gonzaga was going to play very well because they've been quiet kind of all year. Usually they're a little bit loud, especially once they get into the start making their way into the tournament. So those were probably my two kind of biggest, like, okay, we may have an interesting tournament here, but nobody has blown the doors off, and I think with the parity in college basketball that you're seeing now with transfer portals and some of these one and dones kind of deals, you're seeing a lot of the gap closing. So you're not going to get, the 15s, getting somebody and blowing somebody out, or I think that may be a thing of the past here. I'd be surprised if any of those ones or twos loses tonight. I don't see that happen. Florida, I got Florida going all the way. I think they're the best team in the country. No hate to Duke Blue Devils, because I think they're going to meet up in the championship game. But to me, Florida, that school has a history of winning. So it's nice to see them back to kind of that Florida Gators basketball mentality right now.
And I'm glad you brought that up because if you look at ESPN's brackets, Duke is the most picked champion at 25%, Florida following that 21.3%, and then Auburn at 10.6%. And I was kind of taken back. I thought Auburn as the number one overall seed, also being an SEC school as well, you would think they would garner a lot of the picks in terms of people's brackets, but Auburn started to struggle a little bit against Alabama State. They pulled away in the second half, but when it comes to it, you really got to have a lot of luck, and that includes health, that includes who you're playing, that includes the health of the other team, and you got to get the ball in the basket. And that's what makes March Madness special, is it's one and done. You are either moving on or you are moving on to next year. You're going home. And Ole Miss right now is up 13 against UNC with about 10 minutes to go in regulation. That's one of the games going on right now. And Chris updated you 42-28. Maryland up at the half against Grand Canyon, trying to hold off a potential 12 and 13 seed matchup. And the winner's going to play Colorado State in the next round here in a couple days. So there's a lot going on right now. We'll have some of the other matchups. We mentioned Michigan State and Bryant. Marquette and New Mexico will be fun. Arizona, Akron, Oregon, Liberty later on tonight as well. Going down towards the other end of the bracket, you got Illinois and 11 seed Xavier. I just remember filling out brackets all the time, and Xavier and Gonzaga were these like, where are these at? But they're always in the tournament. You got Kentucky and Troy being the alma mater of NFL Hall of Fame defensive end DeMarcus Ware. And then that's ended up with Florida, Norfolk State, and then UConn and Oklahoma. So there's still some really good matchups tonight. And Drew Code Sports Talk, Cody's 11-year-old, has Florida and Duke in the finals, with Florida winning. Really? No chomping in the swamp here for Out of Pocket. But best of luck until they reach the championship game, and then I hope it's the exact opposite, that Duke just crushes your 11-year-old's dreams. I would love that.
Hey, that's crazy. All right.
Hey, I can say that. If John Cena's a heel now, anybody can be a heel. Somebody who's been a heel probably his entire playing career is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is, how else can you describe him? What a guy. He is meeting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's some momentum right now. They've had contract parameters in place for weeks, according to Tom Pelissero. He spent 6 hours at the training facility today, meeting with coaches. That was posted by Adam Schefter about an hour ago. Aaron Rodgers, the longtime quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, brought one Super Bowl to the team, same as Brett Favre. And then Went to the New York Jets the last couple of years. Very Brett Favre-esque. And now the Minnesota Vikings, who let Sam Darnold go to the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe Aaron Rodgers can follow in Brett Favre's footsteps and end his career in Minnesota. And the Vikings are like, actually, we're just going to ride it out with J.J. McCarthy. We're fine. We don't need Aaron Rodgers. And so that has me thinking that Aaron Rodgers at 41 years old, first of all, that's an anomaly if you're about to play your 21st season in the NFL. One-time Super Bowl champion, 4-time NFL MVP, 4-time first-team All-Pro. And I'm just looking at Aaron Rodgers and knowing how difficult he is to get along with, difficult to lead a locker room, how he treated the Jets organization and fellow teammates the last couple years, wanting his guys on the offense, just blowing up a young team with great potential. And these other organizations are like, why should we bet on a guy who hasn't been physically in his prime for 3 to 4 years and who is a head case? Chris, you're a Pittsburgh Steelers guy. Jason, you're a Giants guy. Both your teams have been linked to this man. But I don't think I'm out of pocket in saying that Aaron Rodgers would do the entire NFL a service by just hanging it up now. Chris, as a Steelers guy, would you want Rodgers as your quarterback this year?
No, I really wouldn't. I think he's well past his prime, and obviously, despite him being a head case, the stats are there. I mean, he's 7th all-time in passing yards. He's 5th all-time with 503 in passing touchdowns, but 41. And also, I just don't think he's mentally in the game anymore. But I would honestly rather have just re-signed Justin Fields. That's kind of what I said a few weeks ago. Jason, you remember that on Gridiron Address? I mentioned that I would have rather them just go for Justin Fields at this point. I'd rather them go for Russ, or honestly, I would rather see a year Mason Rudolph over Aaron Rodgers at this point. And I don't want him. I really don't think that he's going to benefit anything in already a hectic locker room where there's been a lot of moves. There's been very un-Steeler-esque moves like DK Metcalf coming in. That's not a very Steelers-like move to make a huge trade like that. George Pickens, obviously, you have Najee Harris who just walked out the door. And the running back room's a little bit weird right now. The draft's up in the air. There's a lot of good and bad vibes, I think, in that locker room in the Berg. And I don't think that adding Aaron Rodgers would balance that in a positive way.
Wow. Just so you guys know, Chris said he'd rather have Mason Rudolph over Aaron Rodgers. And this is probably why. Aaron Rodgers won back-to-back MVPs, 2020 and 2021. His final season in Green Bay, he went 8-9, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. His passer rating dropped from 121.5 to 111.9 to, after his MVP year, 91.1. Obviously, has the injury, first possession with the Jets in 23, comes back in 24. Team is 5-12 with Aaron Rodgers. 63% completion percentage, his lowest since 2019, 3,800 yards, and 28 touchdowns, 11 picks, 9.5 passer rating. Do you know that is his lowest since, get this, since 2006, when he had 15 pass attempts. This was, in terms of his starting year, the lowest passer rating he's ever had. And that is what you're getting with Aaron Rodgers now. Jason, your Giants are also in the sweepstakes for Aaron Rodgers himself. Do you think there's another A-Rod in New York?
No. Don't. Please. And look, Aaron Rodgers has had a great career. He's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I still believe he's one of the most overrated quarterbacks in NFL history. I mean, you got one Super Bowl. Yes, you got the MVPs, but not much else. You know, team-wise, you're not Tom Brady, so this whole playing into your 40s thing, it's getting a little old. And I think the teams wouldn't humor him by bringing him in the building and doing all these things. I'm very surprised that teams are still entertaining the idea of putting him on the field. So that's what gives him hope. See, if none of the teams were calling, Aaron Rodgers would hang it up and I think would go to his Zen happy place and probably do podcasts from a cave and do a bunch of Aaron Rodgers type things. But teams are still bringing him in. Teams are still entertaining him. They're still whining him. They're still dining him. They're still fluffing his ego because Aaron Rodgers has the quarterback diva mentality added with a little bit of the wide receiver diva mentality added to like a GM diva mentality. He's got all these mentalities like rolled into one where he thinks he knows everything. He's probably I'm the greatest quarterback of all time. I know how to shape a team. So please give me this guy, this guy, this guy, and we're going to make it happen. And teams humor him and do it. And that's what killed the Jets. Green Bay got smart and said, look, we have Jordan Love. We're moving on. Minnesota didn't even want to play the game. They said, no, look, we're going to take, our rookie that was hurt last year, and we're going to roll with him rather than putting you on the field and starting this full circle Brett Favre mess, because that's all it would be. And my money is not on the New York Giants. Cody, no. Just say no. I would rather put Tommy Cutlets out there than put Aaron Rodgers out there, because Aaron Rodgers is done. Look, dude, you've had a great career. Stop embarrassing yourself, because now you're just going to be an old quarterback. This happened to Joe Namath. This happened to a lot of the greats, Johnny Unitas. They played well into past their careers that they should have played, and it ended up kind of, I don't say hurting their legacy, but it was a little bit of stain on their legacies. So please, Aaron, we're good. I think you need to fade away. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers would be a huge disservice to them, because I don't think he fits his mentality and his attitude. I don't really think that fits a Mike Tomlin team. So I don't see that, cohesiveness happening in that locker room with those two guys, because you're talking about polar opposites. And then you put that in there along with Pickens and Metcalf, who Tomlin's going to have to separate those guys as it is. So now you're going to throw the Zen Master in there too. No, I think it'd be a hot mess in Pittsburgh. So please, teams, stop just catering to him and let him go away. Please.
Mac bringing up, he needs to do a discount double check, and give them a discount. That'd be interesting. He's even been replaced on these commercials by Patrick Mahomes, because even State Farm realizes this is just the end of Aaron Rodgers. And I'm going to try not to let my bias seep in, but I mean, everyone's looking at, some of the greats to play the game. And I've heard comparisons to Peyton Manning. Well, Peyton Manning, at the end of his career, went to a team that was ready to win. He didn't blow it up. He didn't ask for Denver to sign all his guys. Peyton came. He was a team player, and he realized it wasn't all about Peyton anymore. Let me use my mind and let me use my leadership to help this young team and this great defense go and win a championship, beating the Carolina Panthers in Super Bowl 50, by the way. Okay, this isn't like Tom Brady. Tom Brady did bring a couple of his guys to Tampa Bay, including Rob Gronkowski. But you know what? He didn't get rid of Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. And Tom Brady was a proven winner even at that stage of his career. That's what makes Tom Brady different. And Tom had a chip on his shoulder. He wanted his legacy detached from Bill Belichick. He wanted to show that he could win a Super Bowl without Bill. And he did. And you know what Bill was never able to do? Sorry, UNC fans. He was never able to win a Super Bowl without Tom Brady.
Nope.
And so when you look at Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't won a Super Bowl in 15 years and is riding on his past, it's just, It's not the same. So please, 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 if you're trying to compare a 41-year-old to Aaron Rodgers, to Peyton Manning at the end of his career, to Tom Brady at the end of his career, it's not the same.
No.
They not like us. They're
No.
built different. And
No.
Aaron Rodgers, unlike Tom Brady, unlike Peyton Manning, isn't a locker room leader. He's just kind of cancerous. That's who Aaron Rodgers is. And we're talking about helping or hindering his legacy. Peyton's legacy helped with the Super Bowl. Tom Brady's legacy helped with the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, I just don't see it helping anywhere, or else one of these quarterback need teams who are contenders would have reached out to him. But again, Minnesota saying, I'm good, tells us everything we need to know. And speaking of championships, we had a championship team be sold. The Boston Celtics are now under new ownership. It was a historic deal. Now, Jason covers basketball on 3 from Deep 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Saturdays at noon. We'll get to Steph Curry here in a second, but I wanted to ask you guys this in a way of not necessarily a basketball question, because we could talk about what this means for the Celtics. They'll continue winning, and you'll probably get a deeper dive on 3 from Deep tomorrow afternoon, and I encourage you guys to watch that. But what I want to say is it's a fan's dream to be a owner of a sports franchise, and everybody's like, oh, Jerry, sell the team. And I know in a heartbeat, I would want to take my Madden skills to Frisco, Texas, to the Star and try to be the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm not even phrasing this question in a way of you guys taking over your favorite team. I'm sure Chris would love to be a Dodgers fan, even though that's going just as well, or Jason would want to be a Giants fan to save them from that muck. But if you guys had to look at a team and be like, oh, I could run that team, what is a sports franchise that is not your favorite team that you would like to own? Now, if anybody's wondering if this would ever happen, this has happened. Jimmy Haslam, a lifelong Pittsburgh Steelers fan, went out and bought the Cleveland Browns. And that's probably why they're still the Cleveland Browns, by the way. Jimmy's working an inside job. But is there an organization, whether it's MLB, NHL, NBA, NFL, is there an organization that you were like, hey, I could purchase that team, and here is what I would do in the first 1 to 2 years to try to change the culture or try to develop the young players, or, hey, maybe even move the team somewhere? I know the NBA needs a Seattle team by chance. Is there a team that sticks out to you? Jason, what would you go for?
Well, right now, you can get a deal out there. The Memphis Grizzlies are only rated, or however they do it with their values. Right now, you can get them for only $3 billion. So you talk about an ROI, return on your investment. Go out there, go get the Memphis Grizzlies, $3 billion, easy money, and you'll make your money back like that. I would take them. I don't know about Memphis, but I would think about maybe moving them back to Seattle, because Seattle is a fantastic basketball town. I hated when the Sonics left. It was very disappointing. And right now it's set up. Yes, only $3 billion. Look, right now, the number one team value-wise in the NBA is the Golden State Warriors at $8.8 billion. So you figure those are $8 billion. The New York Knicks are about $7.5 billion. The Lakers are around $7 billion. Celtics just went for a little over $6 billion. So $3 billion is not that much money right now. So get the Memphis Grizzlies, get them out to Seattle, because right now the Oklahoma City Thunder gave up all those rights, so the history and everything. So the Seattle team that goes there is going to get all that history. They're going to be able to keep the name. And so you've already got it set up. So you talk about an instant return on your investment. You take Memphis, you put them in Seattle, they become the Seattle Supersonics again. And then next thing you know, you have that vintage old school feel. Gary Payton coming out of the woodwork, Sean Kemp coming out. You just take your $3 billion and you probably add another $2 billion instantaneously. So that's what I would do. That's kind of some easy money. If you're talking baseball, you got to take the Tampa Bay Rays, get them out of Tampa Bay, find a home for them, and build an actual decent stadium. Maybe you can make some money. But if I want quick, easy money, Memphis Grizzlies, $3 billion, get them to Seattle, put those old school Seattle Supersonics jerseys on them, and you will make your money back in less than 2 years. Especially John Morant. So you talk about John Morant, the Sean Kemp vibe thing going on. Oh my goodness, I can see the commercials already.
And Drew Code Sports Talk, only $3 billion. If you missed it, he's running to grab his checkbook now.
Deal of the century.
But I would love there to be a new team in the NBA in Seattle. Matt, probably get Hornets for a big gulp and a 7-Eleven hot dog. Oh,
I ain't gonna do that to Mike. Come on, man.
Next comment wins. He gets the winner right there.
Yeah, you got it.
The worst part of this is it's not even worth a QT hot dog. It's worth a 7-Eleven hot dog.
Put that on a t-shirt. Put that on a t-shirt.
Oh, if Cooper if the Hornets got the number 1 pick and Cooper Flag came out, I mean, hey, I would do 2 7-Eleven hot dogs. I mean, I would pay the big bucks right there.
Ball and flag. I mean, ball and flag together. That wouldn't be a bad combo right there. So I mean, that I think would increase the value. I mean,
and trade for Joel Embiid. You got flag football right there with all Joel Embiid's foot issues. Chris, it's interesting the NBA guy chose to go and take ownership of another NBA team. I'm curious, you have a lot of baseball knowledge. If nobody's watched your shows over the offseason of baseball, you know knowledge of every baseball team. You also went through a list 30-1 ranking the best players on each team. So you've already done your scouting a little bit. It's not limited to baseball if you want to explore another sport, but is there a team you would go and purchase?
I thought about a few here over the past day or so, and a couple came to mind outside of baseball. I am going with the baseball team in transparency with you guys. I thought about, like the Utah Hockey Club, thought about the Carolina Hurricanes, was trying to go a little bit outside baseball, but actually I'm going to go with, and I'm going to call them this, even though they're in Sacramento now, the Oakland Athletics. I'm going to go with the A's. I mean, with their just starting with the farm system, they have a solid farm system with Jacob Wilson, Nick Kurtz, Colby Thomas. That payroll is pretty good too. At only 50, going back to Drew Code Sports Talks joke, you're only $56 million roughly. But yeah, I mean, there's guys there. I mean, JP Sears, he was a guy when I did my random players I'm big on, my last episode of Dugout Debrief. I really am big on JP Sears out of the Citadel. I think that he could finish top 10 in Cy Young voting. They just signed Luis Severino. They have arguably the second best closer in baseball behind Emmanuel Clase with Mason Miller. They just got Gio Urshela. They got guys like Brett Rooker at a good deal. They got Max Schumann. Seth Brown, and then of course they have one of the more electric younger players in Lawrence Butler, a guy who's been on and off a bunch of podcasts right now. He's been a huge hot commodity with that. But I mean, my thing with the A's is the first thing I would do if I could afford the 1.8 or $1.18 billion that they're worth, which is, by the way, the second. Yep, just over $1 billion. They're the second least valuable team in baseball, by the way. But if I could afford that, I could clearly afford to strike a better deal with the city of Oakland and bring them back to Oakland and scrap this Las Vegas idea, which I don't think is ever going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to be in purgatory for at least 5 to 10 years. And everyone knows my opinion on John Fisher, how he should not be an owner. He is unfit to be an owner. And if I could take that team under the reins, I would just build on this core, and you have a young core there and actually keep it for once. Another name I forgot to mention was Nick Allen as well, as a good young up-and-coming player as well. Shortstop, undersized shortstop, but a good arm, good bat. And I would just sign a few marquee free agents the next year and just build on the farm system, build on the core, and build on that division that is becoming not necessarily winnable with the Texas Rangers remaining at their level, as you know, Michael, but also with teams like the Astros who are on the way out, teams like the Mariners that are being complacent. So I think you're in a good spot if you're the A's, because you have a young core and you can go out and get a couple people and potentially get a wild card or even win that division.
Wow. Okay. And it's very interesting. Jason goes NBA, Chris goes MLB. I almost thought that was going to happen, but I didn't know. I didn't want to lock you guys in either.
Planned a little bit.
Now, some comments coming in. Drew Code Sports Talk. If Cooper Flag found out the Hornets had the number 1 pick, he'd stay in Duke to avoid the Hornets. You know what? I'm not mad at that. If somebody can get that to Cooper Flag, let's get that knowledge to him ASAP. But Max said if Flag goes to the Hornets, we're doing a road trip. Dad and the boys on the road in Charlotte. We might even turn that into a Hornets podcast. And Drew Code Sports Talk for the MLB, buy the White Sox and move them to a different city. Not a bad idea. You don't like that idea, Chris?
No, they belong in Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, Jerry Reinsdorf needs to sell the team, but I mean, I don't know how he is as an NBA owner, because I know he owned the Bulls, or I believe he still does. But also with the White Sox, it's more a mentality. I still think that city, they're a big enough part of that city. Not as much as the Cubs, but they're a culture, or the Bulls, but they're a cultural part of that city.
Get Tampa Bay, move them back to Montreal. Let's get the Expos back.
You got to name them the Expos, though, because Montreal said they will not take a team not called the Expos.
I would love them, the Expos, the old school Expos jerseys. Bring it. Old school Randy Johnson, Tim Raines. Let's go. Bring Montreal
back at Olympic Stadium.
Wow. And so I wanted to do some research and give people some of these right here. The NFL teams, the value for Forbes, the least team is the Cincinnati Bengals at 4.1. For the NBA, Jason mentioned the Memphis Grizzlies at $3 billion. Major League Baseball, kind of in the low ranks. I mean, the Miami Marlins are valued at what, $1 billion? So significantly less than what the NFL teams go for, what the NBA teams go for. So I do want to make it known, if you are financially savvy, you would probably want to get the baseball teams, unless you do the Yankees, and that's like $7.1 billion. So not as much money saved.
Steinbrenner ain't selling that team.
Yeah.
And Drew Code Sports Talk saying, get a team in Mexico City. Now, I'm glad you said this. I am glad you said this, because my team is going to shock you. If Jason went NBA and Mac even brought up the Charlotte Hornets, I'm not even going to touch the NBA, because the Hornets probably would have been my pick. Chris going baseball, and I'm like, I could go Miami Marlins. I do love the South Beach area. I'd be able to still watch the Heat even if I didn't know them. And so I started thinking about, well, what about the NFL? What about the NFL? And I got somewhere I'm going with this, because this made this idea even better. So my first ever Madden game was Madden 2005. And on the settings, the computer, the CPU was able to relocate teams. And so one of the teams they relocated became the Mexico City Miners, like gold miners, for whatever reason, Mexico City Miners. And I had to play, because I was obviously the Dallas Cowboys, I had to play this team twice a year. And so Jason's like, what would I do for the Grizzlies? I'd move them to Seattle. Chris, I'll use these young players and like build a dynasty.
Put them back in Oakland.
I would love to buy the Philadelphia Eagles and just absolutely blow everything up. It would give me so much joy to say, hey, I'm buying the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. And first thing we're doing, Saquon, you got your money. We're shipping you to Cleveland. They need a running back. Nick Chubb is on one leg. You're going to Cleveland. And guess what? Jalen Hurts. You know what? Miami, Tua can't stay healthy. Jalen, you're going to Miami. You're taking your talents to South Beach. A.J. Brown, wouldn't you absolutely love to be thrown the football by whoever is in Las Vegas? You know, you have a good head on your shoulders. You're going to Las Vegas. Devontae Smith, we'll keep you around until the trade deadline, and we'll ship you off to the best team in the NFL for like a conditional 5th round pick. And nothing, absolutely nothing would make me feel better than to relocate the Eagles to Mexico City, get them out of our country, make Philadelphia fans agitated and just disgusted. All that joy they just experienced a month ago, gone.
You would have to move with them because you would not be able to come back in this country because Eagles fans would hunt you down. Plus,
I'll work remote. That's the best thing.
The whole point of owning a team is to get your return on investment. So destroying it and dismantling it kind of goes against making your money back because now you're devaluing the team. So
it's so worth it. It would be 100% worth it. Drew Code Sports Talk, chill. I just gave you AJ Brown, and this is how you're going to show up in the comments for me. Max saying Cincinnati spent their entire worth at wide receiver. Podcast Smitty, host of Quick Hits. I'll just say if I was, it would probably be delicious in Mexico City as I just blow everything up for the the Mexico City Eagles. So, and we're even getting rid of the Eagles brand. So that's where I'm wanting to take this. Who wants to be good guy? I don't know. John Cena's heel turn, that podcast Smitty very greatly covered on Quick Hits. That's where I'm feeling a little more heelish today, especially as we continue to look at the NCAA bracket March Madness. UNC, they're down 7 right now with 22 seconds left, so they'll probably be losing to Ole Miss, even though I had them going a couple rounds into Luca's March Madness bracket group. Which
Podcast Smitty is leading, by the way. Before the result of this game, Podcast Smitty is leading that group right now, just so we're all aware, though.
Yeah,
you had to give Smitty his props.
He's got Tennessee winning, so we'll say.
But I do want to say real quick, while I have all of you on here and podcast me in the comments, y'all have been doing awesome, by the way. Quick Hits, I just look and, an episode has 100 views, and Jason's NBA podcast, 3 from Deep from a couple days ago, 100 views. Chris DeLuca, I don't know how you do it in the MLB offseason, but you make it intriguing, you make it interesting, and it's amazing to see just this team come together and flourish and thrive. But the main thing is Podcast Smitty. He's passionate about several things. He's very knowledgeable about all the stuff, and he can use a Quick Hits episode for that. Jason, his passion was NBA, which I didn't even know. I thought it was fantasy football from Sideline Savants, and he's getting to do his passion. Chris DeLuca, our biggest baseball fan right here, doing absolutely incredible. And Chris is going to pop out of here. Chris, I appreciate you joining us. What could people expect from Dugout Debrief, your episode yesterday? And for all my NBA fans, we got a special segment in store here in just a couple minutes, so stay tuned. Chris, what's happening on Dugout Debrief?
I mean, we did our award predictions, the past one. That was pretty much the general gist with that. We had a longer episode as we did both the American and National League this time, and we're doing a season preview here as we have opening day on Thursday in North America, opening day. So we'll be having a Dugout Debrief right around the time. I think the first game's at like 12:40 or so. So you can go ahead and watch Dugout Debrief here. We'll have our season preview, and then you can go ahead and watch the upcoming games here. There's going to be, I believe, every team but 2 are playing on Thursday. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. Excited for opening day. We got more sports here. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up. March Madness. We got the Masters. We got a lot. NBA season here coming to a close soon with the playoffs. And I'm just excited for what we got going on this great channel.
Dude, I'm super excited. MLB opening day. Games start at 3, I'm noticing. And then the real game starts 4:05. The Texas Rangers hosting the Boston Red Sox, which will probably be good. Evaldi's probably going to be the pitcher for the Rangers. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, if you guys can get it, the Dodgers will play the Tigers, the defending World Series champions right there. That I'm sure Chris will be enjoying. And Max saying, since you're moving the Eagles to Mexico City, trade Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis for Taco Charlton. Now I'm game. That's a great deal. But yeah, and Drew Code, the growth's been amazing. Congrats, fellas. I appreciate the guys on the screen, even though Chris is about to pop off. But Chris, I appreciate you giving us your time today.
Of course. Have a great day.
Thank you, Chris.
You and Jason, we've had a great time. I know you'll probably talk more the NBA aspect about sports franchises, but really wanted to have like a more fun segment because this news isn't as fun because one of the better NBA stars, Steph Curry, he goes down with an injury. He will miss a little bit of time. And so he just has a contusion with his pelvic area. No structural damage. He's going to miss the start of the Warriors road trip, which is about 6 games. That game is going to be Atlanta and Saturday. He's going to be reevaluated at the beginning of next week. So who knows what is going to happen with the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry when he's able to come back. Right now, it's such a tight race. I mean, the Golden State Warriors are currently the 6th seed in the West, but they're a game and a half behind or a game and a half ahead of the Clippers and the Timberwolves from being a play-in team. They're about 4 games back from the 2 seed Houston Rockets. I mean, this is a really pivotal time for the Golden State Warriors when they've played 70 games. You have about 12 left, and every game matters. And you know that. Hosting the NBA podcast, 3 from Deep, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at noon. I want to know because we've seen a different Golden State team. They've won 9 of their last 10. And this is, unfortunately, a rejuvenated Jimmy Butler, who's probably found his joy and found his smile again. But do you think having Curry the rest of the regular season would be pivotal for this team, only having 12 games left? And, you know, if they're a different team without Curry, they could potentially see themselves fall all the way back to an 8 seed, a 9 seed, 10 seed even. They haven't even clinched the playoffs yet. Yeah. It is that serious for the Golden State Warriors. How vital is Curry right now?
Well, Steph Curry is the main guy on that team. He's number one. He's the number one option. That team lives and dies by him. But this is the reason why they took the chance on Jimmy Butler for this kind of moment. With Steph Curry getting hurt, I hope he gets better quick. Hopefully they can work him in next week. I think this is a good rest for him. So I think this might be kind of a blessing in disguise. Although this West race is insane right now, how from 2nd place to 10th place, it is such a close rate. One loss either way, and next thing you know, you're in the play-in game. So Steph Curry is very important, but I think if they can have the same playoff Jimmy buckets, if they can have him playing at the top of his game and take the reins, get Draymond Green playing the way he's been playing. They've been playing really good defense. I think they have a shot to really right this ship and not miss Steph Curry too much. Now, they need Steph Curry for the play. There's no doubt. If they don't have him for the playoffs, they're done. They're one and done, whether they're in the play-in tournament, whether they're, in that, they stay in that 6th seed. I don't see them making any noise without Steph Curry because that team moves with him. He is the greatest shooter God ever created. He is in my top 10 all-time NBA players. He has made an insane impact on the NBA the way he plays. He moves the needle. He puts eyeballs on the screen. So without him, the Golden State Warriors are hurting. But I think right now, if they don't panic and Jimmy Butler does what he was brought in to do, which is go out there, give him 29, 30 points, and lead that team while Steph's out and get those wins, stay in that 6th seed, and don't lose any ground, I think they'll be fine. In fact, I think that'll bring that unit closer together, and then they can really make some noise in the playoffs with that squad. So it is a big loss, but lucky enough, knock on wood, he bruised his butt. So I think ultimately they're trying to be like kind of cool with it and, whatever, contusion and everything, but he didn't fracture anything. He didn't break anything. And it's his backside, so it's not like it was his back or something else. I think I'd be a little more concerned, but he got a bruise. I think this is the rest that he's going to need. This is the same thing that happened with LeBron and the Lakers. I mean, I think the groin strain, that's not good for the Lakers, but at the same time, you're giving a 40-year-old LeBron James or 41-year-old LeBron James some rest before the playoffs, because these guys are competitors. They're going to go out there, blood, sweat, and tears. Steph Curry would play every game and play as much as he can all the way into the playoffs. So this is their, hey, Steph, you need to sit down. We need to make sure you're healthy. You bring him back 2-3 games before the playoffs start, have him get his jumping legs back, and I think the Golden State Warriors will be fine. But Jimmy Butler, this is your time. Jimmy Buckets, this is why Golden State spent a lot of money on you and signed that big contract for you and went out and took a chance on you when not a lot of other teams wanted to. So if he can do it, if Draymond does what he's doing right now, I think Golden State will be fine.
Yeah, and it is a different situation in terms of like the Warriors without Curry versus the Lakers without LeBron. And, comparing Jimmy Butler's stats this year alone to Miami to Golden State, Jimmy, since coming to the Golden State, pretty similar points per game, 17 to 17.2, very similar there, but has one more rebound per game, has about 1.5 more assists per game, even though his field goal percentage has dropped significantly. 3-point percentage has dropped significantly, going from the 50s to the 40s, going from 36 from 3 to 24.3 from the 3-point range. But, I mean, you look at what Jimmy Butler is right now, and just in 18 games played for the Golden State Warriors, he is their second leading scorer since he's arrived on the team, obviously next to Curry. Rebounds, probably about like second on the team, right behind Kevon Looney. Assists per game, he leads the team.
Right.
So Jimmy Butler has found his joy, whether I wanted him to or not. And we have somebody commenting excited about college basketball. Appreciate you watching Out of Pocket. We're sports channel. We talk March Madness. We talk NBA. We talk NFL, MLB. We talk about it all. And there are so many other shows on our channel. If you guys want to subscribe, we really appreciate that. Hope you're enjoying something that sports fans look forward to all the time. But with the Lakers, and I know they're going through their own set of injuries right now. I mean, without Curry, you're looking at a very like Miami Heat team, maybe even worse than what the Miami Heat have to offer. If LeBron's out, you still have Luka, you still have Austin Reeves. Jackson Hayes hasn't been playing that bad. You have young Dalton Connect, or you have Bronny James just ironically just out of nowhere getting 17 points. But I won't even give Bronny the time of day on this podcast until you actually step out of your father's shoes and are actually playing. And oh, by the way, LeBron, don't come attack me just like you did Stephen A. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Now.
But that's That's tough. And I feel like the Lakers are just so much deeper than the Warriors. And so the Warriors really did have to take a chance on Jimmy finding his joy again with basketball. And so far, so good. And it helps that the Warriors won't have to play Clint Capella, who's going to miss the rest of the regular season after injuring his left hand. So it's Hawks Warriors this weekend. It's Curry not going to be playing that to start their road trip. So it will be Jimmy Butler against the Atlanta Hawks. And that's a much favorable matchup when it comes to it. The Hawks currently a 7 seed, looking more and more like a play-in team. But we'll see how all of that goes. But Jason, you have your own NBA podcast tomorrow at noon. What can people expect to see from you talking about the NBA?
It's just a lot going on right now. Again, we're going to deep dive into that Celtics sale. I got some ideas and some things I want to talk about, especially on the NBA side that deal with the players, with some of these mega deals that go on with these franchises, how it affects and trickles down and affects the players. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk about some playoff seeding. We're going to talk about the East and the West. We got the Cavaliers on fire, still first place, but do they have enough to get over the Celtics? Do they have enough to get over some of those other teams in the East? And I'm going to have a special guest on there for me, helping me with some of this here. My man, Shannon Smith, a.k.a. Podcast Smitty, is going to be on my show. So we're going to talk about youth versus experience when it comes to in the playoffs, because you got a lot of great playoff teams right now. Oklahoma City on fire, best record in the NBA. But they were an easy out last year, lost in the semis. So do they have enough? What's different about this team this year than last year? You have the West is very volatile right now. Again, we talked about it just a minute ago, where if you lose 2 games, you're sliding back down to the 5th, 6th, 7th spot. And someone wins 2-3 games, you're back up. I mean, look what the Houston Rockets did. They got an 8-game winning streak right now. So they went from 5th to 2nd. So the Rockets looking great right now, but a young team. So can a young team like that beat an experienced Lakers team that has Luka and LeBron James on there, that have some playoff experience? Can they beat a Golden State Warriors team that, again, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, playoff experience? Because once you get into the playoffs, it's a different animal. Things are completely different. So we got a lot of things. We got more. So we're going to have a great time. Me and Podcast Mini, we're going to get a little crazy. So please, you got to join us tomorrow at 12 p.m., on the Boom Broadcasting Network. Please, guys, jump, subscribe, check us out. Best podcast channel on the YouTube channel. So got to check us out, man. I'm so excited I came to talk right now because we are just going to have a blast. So check us out. Lots to going on in the NBA right now.
A lot going on right now, and a lot going on Boom Broadcasting, as you mentioned, Jason. Now, I mentioned not only did your show a couple of days ago be seen by over 100 people, the next show in Heart against my Miami Heat. It's okay, whatever. The Houston Rockets emergence as a number 2 seed in the West. But Podcast Smitty broke down who's this generation's greatest of all time, LeBron James or Steph Curry, also seen over 100 times. And Chris was on today, and his show has been seen over 50 times from earlier this week. Actually, yesterday, again, talking about MLB's opening day in Tokyo, Joey Gallo potentially making the switch from batter to pitcher. And with his power, I'm very interested to see how that transition were to go. But we don't do it for the views. We don't do it for numbers. We do it for your entertainment and your enjoyment. And the more you guys watch, the more you guys support, the more subscribers we have, just shows the appreciation to the content creation team. In addition, helps us bring you more content and more shows. Maybe we get to debut some more shows here very soon. But Jason, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate Chris as well, hopping on Out Pocket today. As you saw, Out Pocket's back down to 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And if you're a March Madness fan, we have Hoops and Helmets Mondays and Thursdays live with Aaron and Carson, your hosts of Hoops and Helmets. And they'll probably be talking about March Madness and everything that happened this weekend. So you want to tune in. And this is where you can subscribe and watch that Monday at 5:30 when they're back talking about the bracket. But for Chris from Dugout Debrief, from Jason from 3 from Deep, and for myself, Michael Davis, this has been Owl Pocket on Boom Broadcasting. And we'll catch you back here for Owl Pocket next Tuesday. But subscribe. We got more content coming to you this weekend, including tonight's nightcap, hosted by Mouth Off with Mike, with Wrestling of Destinies, Sean, Joy, and him on the show. We have a lot of content. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Everyone, have an amazing weekend, and let's go watch some basketball.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it. Thank you very much.